Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I am thrilled to be here with you. I'm Terry Proto. I'm CEO of Virtual Reality Marketing, and I want to welcome everyone who's here with us on the pool deck. And I also want to welcome all of us who are watching us live on AWE Live right now. And for starters, a few words about us. You should know us by now, but for the past few years, we've been on this mission to connect enterprises with leading XR creators. And today, VRM, Virtual Reality Marketing, is the largest showcase of immersive companies. We've got more than 3,000 XR creators listed on our site. We've got more than 600 case studies of the best AR and VR experiences also listed, and it's a great resource for everyone to understand how this technology works. And with Reality Innovators Network, our group on LinkedIn, we believe we are the largest online community of XR professionals with something close to 68,000 members. And finally, we're also a business consultancy specialized in AR and VR. And our goal is really to be the guide to the business metaverse and to inspire, educate, and facilitate immersive business. And one thing I like to say always is, by the way, if you need help, yes?
Okay, I'm sorry. It seems like it's echoing. If everybody could mute themselves.
I assume so.
Yes, thank you, Sophia.
Bluetooth or something.
Ron, I think it's
Ron.
Yeah.
I think it's better. Thank you, Sophia. So I was saying that if you need help finding the right metaverse partner, we can help. Or if you want to share news with our audience of XR professionals, you can get in touch with either Sophia or I. You've got links to connect to our LinkedIn profiles directly next to the bar behind you. And I also want to take a minute to thank today Michelle, Carlos, the red cowboy hats, and our videographer who are making sure that everything is running smoothly for everyone today. I also want to thank Michael Potts, and the team of M2 for hosting us in this beautiful space. And I'll share more on this in a minute. Ron, hey Ron, you're just in front of my notes. Do you mind moving a little? And about today's theme, about virtual environments, I recently read a definition of the metaverse that I liked. And it was very simply, what's the metaverse? Well, the metaverse is a persistent network of 3D spaces. That's it, no more. And I really like that definition because it means that base building blocks of any metaverse experience are going to be, number one, 3D space you're in, and then number two, your avatar. And then from there, you can do anything. And our take at VRM is that the environment that you're in has a big impact on your experience. And that's why before, if you've met us before, we've met at the beach house. And now we're meeting in this nice pool deck because being in a beautiful space matters a lot. Then you can play God and literally build anything for any kind of setting. You can imagine that you're going to have a conference or a virtual concert or a shopping mall. And that's exactly what our speaker does. I'm super excited to have Michael Potts with us today. His company, M2 Studio, has a long background in creating architectural visualization. And now they're really focused on creating some of the coolest virtual environments for some of the best clients and brands. And once again, they've created this space we're meeting in today. Let's give him a warm welcome. And Sophia, I'll let you take it from there.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you guys again. We are packed as usual and really excited to have Michael with us today because he's been key in having us helping us host these Altspace events, because he actually has done the environments for all the last events that we've been in the previous months. And this is a new one that we're able to experience today. So there's a lot of new things to explore. So I hope you guys get a chance to do that afterwards. And so, yeah, so we'll go into some questioning with Michael. And then at the end, we'll give everyone a chance to ask some questions. Please use the raise your hand option. There should be something there. If not, please let us know so we can enable that option. And then there we go.
There you go.
And then at the end, Michelle will help call out some of the people that have questions to answer, to ask, and when we can move forward with that. And we'll keep them really short and sweet so we can hopefully get to everybody's questions. So, first question, Michael. Give us a little introduction on you and some background on what you do in VR and how kind of architectural design has translated into building these immersive spaces.
Sure thing, Sophia. Thank you for asking. And I will say there'll be a video that I think we'll play at some point here that'll have a little bit of a history of our company. So my name is, again, Michael Potts, and I own the company M2 Studio. We also have a sub brand called Polycount.io that we brought in at the end of last year for our blockchain and our kind of high-end fashion brand work that we do. My degree, I got a degree in 1998 in architecture, but while I was in architecture school, I was really fascinated with virtual reality. And I bought my own cheap little virtual reality headset back then. And I've been playing with and working with virtual reality for the last 26 years. And in 2006, my company it was kind of doing okay and getting better. I decided to spend some money and buy a really nice high-end VR system, the same one that they had at NASA, the same one that they had at Boeing and General Motors and all of that. And I thought, let's take this to the world of architecture and let's get architects on board. And I started pushing and pushing, and I got a big trade show and I started building all these environments and having lots of fun. And again, this was 16 years ago. And in Texas, I don't know if you guys travel in Texas in the summertime, but it's awfully hot. And I would pack all this stuff into my car and drive across town or across the state to a client's office, set this all up. It would take hours and hours to get it all going, of course, hot and sweaty. And then here's the virtual reality. Don't you just love it? And quite frankly, it didn't work that well. I didn't sell too many clients on this concept of virtual reality with this big scientific equipment. So my company sort of didn't shelve it, but just sort of kept it in the kind of the waiting area until things got better. And then, of course, in 2012, with the Oculus, that started to bring things out again. So we started to go out and acquire more equipment and learn more about this, get up to speed, sell it, try to push it. We made a few clients, we got some work, but basically all along the way, we've been building visual experiences of architectural spaces. These are pools like we're in right now, or parks or hotels or whatever. And then in 2017, 18, I started pushing to AR and thinking that augmented reality was where we're going to go. And shortly after that, I met Terry, and we started to talk about how he could help me push my company towards selling at the time what I thought was what we were going to do, which was augmented reality with Nreal glasses and a HoloLens to corporations, and how we could create these amazing augmented reality presentations. And the technology worked. The problem was no one wanted you to come into your office in 2020 and make a pitch and show them a demonstration by putting something on your head. So we actually had to pivot. And in some ways, the last 2 years of my company has been a series of pivots, kind of like a sprinkler in your front lawn. And so we started to pivot at around, let's say, the fall of 2020 to creating some environments like this, like one you're in right here, for businesses that were trying to use it to have conferences when they couldn't have conferences in the real world. So we got a few of those projects. This space here, which I will say I think is kind of interesting, was a sales presentation for Asahi Beverage, and they were in Australia. This is an actual replica of a real place in Sydney, Australia, called the Ivy, a rooftop pool deck in the center of the city. And the Asahi Beverage wanted to make a sales pitch, and they couldn't have their salespeople reach their clients. So instead, they had us build this virtual reality space. They shipped the VR headsets, and they made the sales pitch with the salespeople here in this space and the clients in another country with the VR headsets, and it worked. They actually had success with one. They had us build 4 more different environments. And that's kind of when our trajectory started to turn, and we moved away from creating environments, mostly for architects, and started working for brands and businesses that wanted created spaces. And I'll tell you, the last 2 years, we've done about 150 projects. We work on about 15 different platforms, and I've got a nice big team of 15 people who are doing some incredible stuff. This is actually one of the earliest spaces that we created. This is about, almost 2 years old. And since then, we've done over 150 different environments on a lot of different platforms for brands and for corporations, for famous people, for collectors, and for artists, and collaborations with various individuals and companies. Probably a couple of most notable ones I'll just say, and then I'll pass it back over, is we worked with the Utah Jazz last year to do a VR experience for fans to meet with players and coaches. We did experiences for the U.S. Olympic Committee last year, both for the Tokyo Games and for the Beijing Games. And we worked with the movie studio, Legendary Pictures, to create an environment to promote the movie Dune. So we were able to work on some really cool projects. McDonald's, a lot of brands, unfortunately, I can't tell you because a lot of times they're under NDA, but you can understand it's a lot of really cool stuff. So that's my answer. I hope that's not too long.
Actually, Michael, quick question. So correct me if I'm wrong. This space is one of your first Altspace space. Correct me. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yeah. It's October of 2020 we produced this. Mm-hmm.
Wow, nice. Thanks.
Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, so what are the most common projects that you work on? Like, what are clients asking for in terms of building out immersive spaces?
I will be honest, it is staggering to me. The use cases are really, really wide. It's hard to say it's just one or it's mostly these. They're really, really wide. And what we're seeing is an evolution of understanding of corporations about how they're going to use the metaverse. And so we're finding that they're coming to us a lot of times and they have a use case in mind. And their use cases might be training, it might be conferences, it might be internal meetings, it might be an outward brand engagement for customers or fans. Those are movie theaters and classrooms and all kinds of stuff. But what we're starting to see, and I think this is where, if you kind of look down the road a little bit, we're starting to see some brands seeing the opportunity to do commercialization, and in some ways maybe even make the experience better for customers who might come into their space. Think about, you could put on your goggles and instead of spending an hour in line down at the DMV, go in there just when it's time to do your meeting. Or let's say I'm waiting for a long time to get a customer sales rep to help me out with something. I can meet them in virtual reality and get that information right there and not without having to leave my own home. So, but we are seeing just across the board, a lot of different brands, a lot of celebrities and bands. I just got through making a space for Ringo Starr. A lot of musicians, athletes are looking for a way to engage with their fans and their constituents or whatever, and they're thinking of using the metaverse as a place to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, amazing. So on that note, give us some basic maybe design principles to building spaces, maybe as it relates specifically to hosting an event in VR, like where we are today.
Okay, well, so I am teaching a class right now at UCLA Extension on world building, and I'm teaching in a beginner class and an advanced class. So I'm taking students through this process, and it's been very rewarding from the vantage point of seeing people upgrade their skills in a relatively short period of time. The thing I try to tell my students that, once you get through the basics of understanding, you're going to need to probably know how to learn how to do some three-dimensional modeling. That's probably key. And then there's some technical work that goes into that. It might take, realistically, it might take several months to get your technical skills up to the level where you can build spaces like this. But a couple of things come in that are really valuable. One of them is just to keep your eyes open, right? To walk around, go and explore spaces and see what people do and see what things are done well. And then keep that in your mind for the next time you're working on something. And I'm not saying borrow people's ideas. I'm just seeing what succeeds and what's successful from a visual, from a spatial relationship. One of the things we've learned that doesn't work very well is you cannot necessarily always take an architectural space and recreate it in the virtual world and think it's going to be great. Because in the real world, a small hallway feels fine, but in a virtual world, especially if you're on a computer, a small hallway feels really tight. A stairwell feels really tight. So a lot of times you've got to expand things and make them bigger. The other thing that I'll tell you a secret that we've learned that's been really, really helpful, and I think it just comes from working on this for 16 years, and because I've been doing this for so long, the thing that you want to do is you want to have the shortest loop back cycle, the shortest ability to go from rapid prototyping, from idea to being able to visualize it. The shorter that you can make that cycle, the faster you can see your idea, the faster you'll be able to make updates and improvements and changes. So that allows you to create spaces that maybe you want to do for yourself. Instead of in months, you can do it in days or in weeks. It will take some time and some practice, but the best way to get there is to find ways that will let you go from idea to visualizing it very quickly.
And I'd love to also have Terry's opinion on this, since, Terry, you've hosted a lot of events in Altspace, with Michael's, spaces, and you specifically, worked with Michael to choose the space that we wanted to be in. Like, what made you decide on what was a good environment for something like this?
Right. That's an excellent question, Sophia. And the answer is not necessarily obvious. I know we had, to what you were saying, Michael, about testing fast and like failing, trying again, learning. We had some ideas. I remember last year we worked on this space and it was really big. And on paper, it looked beautiful and it was great, but actually it turned out to be really intimidating for people because they would teleport into this space that felt really empty. And so people didn't really stay there. And so that's an example. And that's given us the idea that the spaces we're looking for, they must be big, but not too big, so that people don't feel lost in the space. Like here, if you look around you, it's really nice because you've got this nice density of everyone is close to another and you've got enough people. And if the place was 10 times bigger and we had the same amount of people, everyone would be lost in a sea of nothing. So size is one, and then the structure also of the place is important. For our events, we've got a main stage. In here, we've translated some of the things we had before. So you've got breakout booth on the side, and then you've got more space in order, when you meet with someone, it's a networking event. So of course, you're going to bump into interesting people, and you want to be able to separate and go have a discussion with them. I think another thing is 3D audio, actually. And for those who are not familiar, the sound here is spatial as well, meaning that when you get closer to someone, you hear them louder, and when you get further, the opposite. Meaning that if you want to have a conversation with someone, you want to be able to find a space where you can isolate yourself a little bit. And so, just a few examples of things to take into consideration. So you want to have a space that's big and not too big, and have several, different spaces where you can isolate yourself a little bit. And beautiful, of course, doesn't hurt. Top of my head.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing that I'll add to that is, I saw Ben Irwin in here and for a little bit, but he might not be here anymore. But we have a friend, Richard Ward, who's the lead VR AR guy at McKinsey, and he coined the term Richards per minute. And basically what that refers to is having enough interactables in the environment itself. The environment needs to be beautiful, but it also has to keep people engaged. I see you over there, Ben. And we have some great interactives in the space, and some really cool stuff that I haven't even seen before. There's the bar in the back, you can take it, pick it up, pick up multiple different forms of a drink. And then there's a vomit option too. So like some really fun stuff, really different stuff. And I think that's what's key keep people in the environment along with the layout and the beauty of the environment itself. That's kind of like next level thinking of how to create a good space, specifically with a lot of people and in an event type forum. Okay, so
you know what,
go ahead.
The last thing I would add is also never underestimate the fact that you're in the metaverse and you can do anything. So one of the things is you don't want to replicate what we're doing in the real world. Like you want to do we're doing those networking events. And for instance, another reason why we're having those kind of places is, yeah, we could be in a conference room, but we don't have to. And I think that's one of the cool things where sometimes for something you won't observe certain rules, and for other things you can completely break the rules and do whatever you want and be creative.
Yeah, I love that. I love that out of box thinking. What more can we do in these spaces that we can't do in real life? Okay, so last question for me, because I know we have some questions in the tools section, but what are, like, thinking about the future, what are some of the technological advancements needed to build even greater immersive virtual spaces and environments?
Well, the technology advance that I think is coming soon that's going to play a big role. As I look around at everyone, I don't know if it's going to be the next iteration of the glasses, but glasses that look back at our mouths will give us a sense of what people are really reacting to, and if we get into sense of really where their eyes are looking. I think that technology is probably hopefully less than 3 years out. That'll really affect the interactions, the interpersonal interactions we're having with avatars. As far as environments, I totally agree with both of you that the interactions are critical. We did an experience last year for St. Patrick's Day, and we had a bunch of games and we had a bunch of places and fun things for people to do, including a scavenger hunt. And we had people telling us afterwards that they spent hours in this virtual reality environment. And we were trying to find a donor or a sponsor for this thing beforehand, and we couldn't. But I wish I could have gone to the sponsors and said, people will be in this environment, your environment, for hours. But that does come down to having fun things to do. And it's not just fun things, it's also interactions that you're going to set up. Just like we had basically a street in Dublin that people could walk around and do things and talk. I will say there's a couple other things that are also cool. Like when you get into like, what's the most fun activity in virtual reality besides games? I mean, there's games and there's all kinds of fun things to do with games, but I don't know if you've ever been to a dance party in virtual reality, but it's actually a ton of fun. If you're wearing your glasses, it can be a lot of fun. And we created for a company, I can't mention the name, but we created a mountain climbing experience that they took teams up together to build team building skills and climb a mountain together. So there are activities that you can do that go beyond just sort of the conference meeting conversation, that you can actually go and have adventures. We did an African safari in virtual reality, and the space is massive. It's miles and miles wide, and so people can go out and pet the animals and go through it together and see stuff. So there's more to an experience than just a meeting or a fun party. It can be a lot of different things. And really, the one thing I would say is that, like, your creativity is, I mean, what's possible is unlimitless. Like, we do spaceships. We built a house. We helped Krista Kim build a house on Mars. We have all these crazy experiences that can go well beyond just sort of your traditional thinking. So if you've got an idea and you want to explore it, go with it, because anything is possible. I hope I didn't really answer your question exactly, but I hope that the future is going to be incredible, and we're just going to see better and better graphics, better hardware, and these interactions and experiences. I know in my heart, and I believe it because I've seen it in my own two eyes, they're just going to get better and better.
Right. Frankly, I think we're really at the beginning of it. If you take an analogy with video games, I think we are more at the N64 version of the graphics, where if you remember the first Mario in 3D, Mario 64, everyone was like, oh my God, this is amazing. But if you look back now, like 25 years later or something, it was very crude in terms of graphic compared to what you have on a PS5. And we're kind of going to see the same route of getting more and more detailed and more sophisticated, and that's coming fast, I guess. Hey, you know what, Michael? How about we watch the video of your works? I think it's the right time.
Okay. Keep in mind, please, when you watch this video, what you're looking at is between 2006 and 2022. So the very end of the video, like the last minute, is a current project that we just completed. Here we go.
There we go.
Next destination, Ibiza.
Feeling like you're stuck in a hurricane, 'cause everything about you just keeps on.
Really nice. Congratulations, Michael.
Thanks, guys. That last one was a partnership we did with. Last one we did was a partnership with Exclusible, and we're doing a number of projects in the next year with that company. So a lot of new environments. We're working on a yacht right now. We just did a mountain chalet, and we are building an underwater home. So a lot of fun, kind of out there, creative ideas.
Sounds good. Should we move on to the questions?
Yeah, let's move to questions. I mean, I can see the people who are raising their hands, unless Michelle wants to call people out. All right. Let's start with the first question. We have lots of questions.
He's in front of us. Jenny, I can see
Hi,
you.
how are you?
Please.
Gianni, sorry.
There you go.
No worries.
Hi, my name is Giovanni Castillo. I've been developing XR applications for maybe 8 years in a university lab before, and recently when I switched to kind of a Metaverse designer position. And so all of a sudden I'm starting to look at Metaverse platforms to build these experiences. And, you know, the workflow has changed so much in a way because it's not like developing custom applications anymore where you could do really robust, fancy interactions and all this stuff. And so all of a sudden I feel like, hesitant about what kinds of experiences I can make and what platforms to choose. Obviously, there are a ton of them. And I'm just wondering, making that translation into metaverse platforms where it's an existing software platform, how do you really create that richness of experience that we can so easily do with like game engines, like Unity or Unreal? How do you do that? What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And before we were doing all of this, we were building experiences in Unreal and in Unity and creating essentially usually one-off experiences where there would be one person walking through a space.
Exactly.
And I knew from like 2006 that anytime you can have multiple avatars, multiple in an environment like we have right now, it's such a much more rewarding experience. So I think the trade-off that you can't get that you may be able to get in a one-off experience is better because you have other people in the experience with you. Like I said, my favorite moment of 2020 was a dance party that I went to for Freddie Mercury at the Playa in the Metaverse. So I think that the experiences that you get are better. Now, I have a lot of customers who come to me and they say, our use cases are this, 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 and this. And what I find I usually will tell them is, you're not going to find any platform right now that's going to serve every single one of your use cases perfectly. You're either going to want something that they don't have, or your needs are a little bit beyond in some capacity, but you're probably going to be able to find a metaverse platform that serves between 80 and 90% of your needs. And that may be that it's an Altspace. That means that it may be that it's an Engage, or it's in the Wild, or Arthur, or Vatom, or Decentraland, or whatever. But everyone's got a different sort of goal. And I'll tell you, a lot of companies don't care about VR. They care about users. They care about how many people come in. I wish they did. I wish this was all about VR, but it's not right now. So depending on the use case, I usually will tell them, here are your top 2 or 3 best solutions. And then, understand that each one of them is going to come with some caveat of something that you wish you had that you don't have. And your choice is to choose the one that will still do the best for what your goals are.
And each time your workflow changes, though, doesn't it? So sometimes significantly.
Not exactly. So what we build is we build everything and bake everything before it goes to anything else. So this is what you're seeing right here is a GLB. Actually, this is an FBX, but usually what we do is a GLB. And the GLB or FBX will go into almost every platform. So very tiny little changes at the very end of the day. Now, if it's going to go into a platform that's going to have an SDK like Altspace or like some of these, then you'll have to give it an FBX, put it into Unity, and then run the SDK to get it in there. But in many cases, you'll just give the GLB straight to the platform, and then the platform will either do the work or you can do the setup yourself.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
We have any fun? Any fun?
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. Thanks for throwing this. This is a great presentation and a great opportunity to meet people. How often do you get requests from clients to build features or rooms that they can access that their invited guests might not know about? And how do you use architectural memes that we experience in the real world to sort of limit or change the way that guests might behave in a space based off of like your client's recommendation or requirements?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of times it depends on what our clients are thinking in terms, like we'll get customers who say, we want a literal representation of this room. We get that, and we're not going to tell them no. So we say, sure, we'll build you a copy of your world if you want that. But a lot of times there are customers who come and they say, you're the expert, what do you recommend? And then we can kind of, a lot of times what we'll do is, since we have 150 some spaces, we'll say, what are your basic goals? And they'll tell us, and then we'll take them through a dozen or so of the environments that we currently have, and then say, okay, what do you react positively to? What sort of feels like it's the right vibe? And then we'll usually do mood boards and build for them. So that's kind of what we found works pretty well, is if they come in with a very specific goal and a very specific look in mind, we'll just meet their needs. But if they don't know for sure what they want, we'll just show them a lot of different stuff and then see what they react positively to. And we will tell them, like, tiny little environments we found just don't work very well. We've done some Japanese homes that we thought were going to look great, and they're just so small and so compact that it just is hard to navigate in virtual reality. So the other part to your question, though, was, do people ask us to do things that are not for the public? Yes, we get, I would say, between 20 and 50%, 30 and 50% of our stuff is private. They want it for their own employees. They want it for their own staff. They want it for their own sales pitches. I mean, we've done some work with a defense company in the UK, and they basically wanted to make they wanted to make sales presentations of their drones and their robots, and they didn't want to have to send the sales staff across the ocean to make the pitch. So instead, we built that sort of a capabilities demo center for them, and they were able to send them glasses and then make the pitches internally. So I'd say less than half, but more than 25% is internal, not outward facing.
And then can you do that in a combined environment? Like, can you set up an environment where there's an open space like this that we can participate in, but as a client, you know that you can go through there and bring someone with you to a private space or a space that, you know, it has some feature, like you said, the presentation that maybe others shouldn't be seeing?
Yeah, the answer to that, yes, but the way that you do that is more like there's a copy of it instead of there being sort of a zone, right? There's a copy of the space. I think that's better because then people are like, hey, how come I can't get in there? So we would just do a second copy that's private, and if a company wants to have a public version, there's a public version and a private version. And we have had that. I would say it's been less than 10 times, but we have had that situation come along.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Okay, so I have Lisa next.
Sorry. Hi, my name's Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
I really like this space and the ones in the video, but it seems to me the one thing that's always been missing when I go into any world is the ability to leave a lasting impact as a visitor, you know, to make a change to the space in some small way where it wouldn't ruin the place, but you could leave, like, for example, a voice message or some kind of lasting mark that wouldn't be erased. And I just wondered if you had ever done that in some way that was unique, different, or had ideas.
Yeah, yes, and I appreciate you asking that question. Not too often, but we build most of our spaces. I would say more than 50% of our spaces in spatial. We build in Altspace too. We basically build whatever a client wants us to build in. And Spatial's platform allows you to drop notes or photographs, walk around with a camera, and take pictures. And the photographs stay in the space. So we did a couple of things for McDonald's at the end of last year and the first part of this year. And one of the things we allowed people to do is to set up and essentially write letters, write notes, and leave the notes in the space. And so we had 10,000 people come in over about a week and a half. And at one point, we had so many notes, we actually had to take a photograph of the notes and and then actually get rid of them because it wouldn't support the other 5,000 notes. So we basically had that work, but technically we ran out of storage space, or essentially the space wouldn't support that many notes. But we did allow that, and at one point there were thousands of notes at one time. And it was kind of neat because you'd say, hey, love this space, thanks, I'm visiting, you know, I'm here from Iran, I'm here from Israel, I'm here from, you know, Norway. It was kind of cool just to see all the different places in the world people were visiting from.
Cool, thank you, Michael. Hey guys, we have a lot of hand raises. I look on my panel and I see there's 11 hand raised, and we also need to move on with the events. So what I suggest we do is we're going to move on to the breakout rooms. And so in this new space, we've got 4 little breakout rooms to my right, to your left. And Michael, I suggest you stay here on the main stage. And those of you who want to continue ask questions to Michael, we can do that, and while we continue with the breakouts. About that. Okay, I'll take that as a yes. And so let's start with the breakouts. You know the drill. The place is yours. You can isolate in the little booth on the side, and we kind of like to have a nice breaker question to get started on the breakout part of the event. So the question we have today is, please describe the most beautiful environment you've seen in the Metaverse, and especially why did you like it so much and how has it impacted you? And you have that question also in the booth, and I suggest we get started.